Hi, this is part two of the video. This is me, Black Star Dove. Welcome back to the channel. Um, this will be part two of the reason why I came to Phoenix. And part one, I think I left off with me in Hollywood looking at $500,000 in cash on the bed. So that's where we're gonna pick up at. So we started in Las Vegas, me in Hollywood. Um, like I said, we started a few days. We have a 2 week probationary period. So this was like during our second week, and we're not, we're going door to door, we're doing our spills and all that stuff. Um, so the owner called us up to his suite. So he dumps $500,000 in two duffel bags. He dumps it on the bed. He said, pretty much said, if you shut the fuck up and listen and do as you're told, I can teach you how to get this money. Of course, I was like, I'll do whatever. I just seen that money. I was just like, man, I want it. Like, I need it, even though I didn't need it, but like, I need it. Um, so I was like instantly hooked. I can make this amount of money doing that, just selling magazines. So then I had to learn the real game of selling magazines. Like I said before, um, there was a saying that we used to have: when all else fails, my enthusiasm and reasons will sell. So, when all else fails, like you put on this whole dog and pony show, your enthusiasm and your reasons will be the reason why you sell. And then, of course, ABC, which is always be closing. Um, but man, it was just like a whirlwind because it was like during the day we were like going door to door, knocking, and all knocking, and it was tiers. Of course, the best sellers got the higher tiers. But even some of the places that we were knocking at, they still had money. They just didn't have as much money, if that makes sense. Man, some of these houses, man, that's how like I grew to love like the love of money. Like you know, coming from where I came from, I never saw nothing like this. I thought my grandmother's house was amazing. Like this was like blowing her house out of the water. Um, we went to go sell in Henderson, Nevada. For those of you who are familiar with the area, it's not that far from Las Vegas um, and Boulder City. So we went to Henderson, and I was just so amazed by there because that's my first time ever really being out that West Coast. I have another story of how I went to San Francisco, but that's a whole nother other thing. But it was just like so weird. Like I'm used to it now because I live in Phoenix. But there was like no grass. Everybody had shiny rocks in their yard, in their front yard, instead of grass. They just had like shiny rocks, and people were coming out watering the rocks. It's just like really, like seriously. So people are watering the rocks. So anyway, not to get too sidetracked, but it was just so weird. And I remember during our second week, Hollywood got beat up by Jones. That's what we used to call customers. We call them Joneses. That's why keeping up with the Joneses. He got beat up by Jones, and we had to pick him up from the hospital. We had to pick him up from the hospital, and that was like the weirdest thing ever because he said that the Jones thought that he was sleeping with his wife or something like that. I was just like, man, like that shit crazy. And then I learned about the people that actually do that. See, I was just a kid fresh out of college who didn't have shit to do. The rest of them were like ex felons, and there's nothing wrong with being a felon. But these were people who were like straight out of prison, and they had nowhere else to go, so they came and got on the road, and they taught them how to quote unquote speak proper. Some people call it speaking white, but they taught them how to speak properly and how to dress them up. It's amazing what you can do when you just like tell somebody to sit up straight, speak properly, and wear a button down shirt and some slacks. Totally different image. Oh, and keep a nice clean shaved face. Whatever. Man, just like it would be like so weird because that during the daytime we would have like these meetings before we would go out onto the territory, and it was like so weird because they used to like sing and dance, and I still remember like motivated Monday, two for Tuesday, Wicked Wednesday, Thirsty Thursday, Freaky Friday, and that stands for Fast Running Independent Daring Aggressive Yuppie Day. I still remember all that. And I still remember some of the whole song and dances and stuff. It was just, it was a nice little atmosphere during the day. And then, of course, going door to door, knocking, you know. Man, when I tell you one of the first things I bought was some good pair of shoes. Man, shoes were a must, especially going door to door. Um, but at night, that's when everything got wild. People came out. Up. All right, so we would go and drive to the territory, come back. We'll do the check-in. Everyone's unstressing about their day. Everybody would go take a shower, and then you had your free time, so you can do whatever. Remember, we was in Vegas, so people would like go down to the strip, or we was already at Arizona Charlie's. I would just go down to the first floor, play a little bit. We used to call it slow roll a dollar. What that means is that you're slow rolling a dollar on the slot machines and drinking the free drinks. Just slow rolling a dollar. Just like you do the minimum bet on the slot machine, and it's like I think it's like 3 cents, and you just slow roll a dollar and keep drinking free drinks. And of course, you had to practice your spills a little bit, and it was just like, man, it was just wild. And that's the first time I ever ran into like a legit prostitute. And so we was I think we went up to North Las Vegas. And we went to this little chicken spot, and there was this girl in a fur coat standing outside. So me and Hollywood looking like, why is she standing in a fur coat? And it was February, but it was still kind of hot in Vegas. And she's like standing there with a fur coat, just like looking around. So Hollywood went up to approach her. He was like, "Hey, what's up?" She said, "For $75, I could take you on a trip around the world." And it was just like, and then that was our introduction to prostitution. And at first, of course, I was naive. I was like, "A trip around the world? How can you do that for only $75?" And then my van leader put me to the side. He's like, "No, no, you come with me. You come with me." So we used to get a per diem every night, of $25, and then we had to pay to stay in the hotel. Now, what that means is that it would be coming out of our balance altogether. So let's say our per diem was $20 a night. All right, that's cool. And then on Saturdays we'll get a check. Well, we wouldn't get a check. We was all paid in cash. Everything was done in cash. But our cash at Saturday would be, I believe, $40. So 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. So five straight 20s and then a 40, and then you get nothing on Sunday. Um, so we had that, and then because we also got charged for that, and we also got charged for the room. Now here's how the rooms work. It was usually 3 to 4 people in the room. See, our first 2 weeks, me and Hollywood was the new guy, so we slept on the beds while the other two dudes slept on the floor. So we thought it was cool, whatever. Then our 2 weeks was up, and then we were no longer the new guys. And then they was like, "Hey, Wobs, y'all on the floor." So what a wob is a weak ass bitch. But until you start making the big money on your own, you consider the wob. So you had to sleep on the floor. And then of course they had the women there. All right, so you have to take this back to 2013 in my mind frame. So the women were not good salesmen or saleswomen, because 9 times out of 10 you were going to these houses during the day, and Susie Homemaker would be home. It wouldn't be Mr. Jones. It would be Susie Homemaker. And unless she was a lesbian, she wasn't really enticed by you. She, of course, it would be the man, especially black man, and we would go talk to these white women and try to get them to write us a check. So Susie Homemaker, man. But anyway, so the girls weren't there to really get sales. If they got sales, they got sales. The women were there for the winners, because I just go ahead and say his name, Mr. Weldon, who was the owner of the company, Mr. Weldon. He believed in keeping your winners happy. So the women were there to fuck and suck the winners in exchange for free woman, free room and board. Um, man, when I tell you, man, this shit got wild. This shit got wild. Um, and then, man, so like, keep in mind, we're still in Vegas, and then our second stop was Salt Lake City. So this is how we had to move around. We had three cars. We had this old ass Cadillac Escalade that looked like it was on its last dying legs. It was a Honda Odyssey, and it was a Volkswagen station wagon. It was like newer at the time, so it wasn't like one of them old, them old Winnebagos. No, it's like a newer Volkswagen station wagon. Um, and I was one of the few people that had licenses, so I had to ride up, towards the front because I was one of the few people who had licenses, and if they were to get pulled over, I would have to show them my license and be like, I'm a licensed driver in the car. Um, yeah, so a whole lot of people didn't have licenses. So because there were so many people, some people had to ride in the trunk. Now, in the station wagon and in the Escalade, it's not that bad. But in the Honda Odyssey, whoever like just when you get the chance, just Google Honda Odyssey from like 2008. Um, you had to sit in the back, and the back was like a little deep like hole. And imagine you had to sit like this, and then there's probably two people in the back. So you're sitting like this, scrunched up in the back of the Honda Odyssey. Somebody sitting right behind you, and then there's like luggage on top of y'all. That's how we had to go, um, from state to state, man. So that was that was quite the experience, I must say. Um, man. So I'm gonna end this right here. I'm gonna go on part three. On part three, I'm gonna go ahead and speed through all the rest of the cities. But that was just like a little bit of an introduction into the life, as you would say. So other than that, take care. I love you, and I'll see you for part three. Bye.